Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I am joined, as always, by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily, what are we talking about today?
Well, we talk about vulnerability a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, even when we know it's a good thing, it's still scary, no matter what you really do, or how often you do it. I feel like it still has that element of being just scary.
Yeah.
So how can we overcome our fear of vulnerability to become great leaders?
I think we first have to accept that it will never not be scary. When you deploy vulnerability, it is genuinely terrifying every time. I think I do a relatively good job of this. It's still scary every single time. We had a thing that we've talked about internally recently. I was at a conference speaking, and I was about an hour before I was supposed to go on, and I felt like garbage. We had just finished this travel debacle that was like 48 hours to make a 5-hour flight. So it was a long, stressful time. We had all this stuff happening. I was exhausted and done, and my body was telling me that. And I was sitting there in the session before mine, and I could not do it. I couldn't focus. My head hurt. I was dizzy, felt sick to my stomach. I was just like, I might need to cancel this. And I've never canceled anything in my life when it comes to a speaking engagement. So I was terrified.
Yeah.
So I went up to my room, laid down for a little bit, had a friend call to kind of make fun of me, which is what friends do, for something entirely unrelated to this. He just called randomly to make fun of me. And I was like, hey, I'm kind of struggling. Would you pray for me? And he did. And I started to feel a little bit better. And so I went back down to the session, and I stood in front of everybody. And there's about 125 people in the room, 150, somewhere around there. And I stood in front of everybody and was like, okay, guys, I talk about vulnerability all the time. This is what great leaders should do, is healthy vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes healthy vulnerability is saying when you don't have it. And I was like, I don't have it today. I feel like hot garbage as I stand in front of you right now. Here's what I'm feeling. And so if you feel like I'm off today and this doesn't go well, that's why. Just wanted to set the stage for you.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Everybody just kind of nodded their head, and then we got into the session. It went really, really well. But I was amazed at, it was scary to stand in front of all those people and do that. It was less scary than canceling, but still scary.
The right choice.
Made the right choice, but it was still scary. But it was amazing to me how many people lined up at the end to just come say, hey, thank you, by the way, for saying that. That was actually really helpful to see somebody that you're a paid speaker, is what you do for a living.
Right.
And you were willing to say, I might not have it today. And so it was really, to them, it was attractive. And I think what we're trying to get to is this idea that vulnerability really is attractive, that it opens the door to connection when we can be human. And I was doing another event the other day, and there was a police chief there, and he told me afterwards, he said, you had me from the beginning, but when you really had me is when you talked about the fact that you had regrets as a father. And he's like, that, I connect with that. I'm a father. I have regrets. Suddenly there was this connection there,
Yeah.
I think there's something to this, that it is always going to be scary. But I think that's how we know we're doing something good.
I agree. I think a lot of it is just that level of honesty where it's like what they're saying isn't unreachable. Like what they're saying has that element of truth where you're like, oh, yeah, that's actually something that I can do. He's not just better at this.
Exactly.
And so it comes easy. It doesn't just come easier to you just because you speak about it.
No, it's incredibly difficult, actually.
And so I think when people can see that, it's not, and you're not doing it just for the show production of, look, you too can be vulnerable.
Yes.
It legitimately is. Vulnerability is hard no matter who you are.
Yeah.
And no matter how often you do it. And you still have to have that.
That initial talk we give, I've given that talk 1,000 times at this point. It's still, when I get into like, here's why I do this, because I screwed this up and I almost lost my family, like that resonates with people, because I think then everything after that I'm saying is, okay, that guy almost screwed this up to that extent, and he's doing these things. He's capable of that. And I think it's the same thing when leaders choose to be vulnerable. There's humanity in that, and there's connection in that. And then people go, okay, if the leader, because as leaders, we set the tone for success. If a successful leader is humble and vulnerable and can say, hey, I don't have it all the time, and we're still going to move forward anyway. I think there's something to that. People go, okay, we can do this. We can also be human. We can show up as best we can each day, because it kind of gives people permission to not be perfect all the time. And in that, we're really going to make progress, because when we're all pretending we're perfect, we're just lying to one another.
Yeah.
We know we don't have it, and we know the people across from us probably don't have it either, even though they're pretending.
Yeah. Well, this is why, like, the fake it till you make it idea. Like, if you would have just gotten up on stage and been like, fake it till you make it, and I'm just going to pretend everything's fine, then, like, I mean, sure, you probably could have gotten through it, but would it have been as helpful or impactful for people? Or
well,
would
you're
it
missing that opportunity for vulnerability.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would have just not have been as good and not as been as honest.
Well, and I think the fear of vulnerability, one of the things as we were writing and talking about this, the fear of vulnerability, it's ultimately focused on us, right? If I say this, what are they going to think of me? And part of overcoming that fear is understanding we are being of service to people. And so when you're focusing on service to others, you're focusing extra. You're not focused on what are they going to think of me? You're focusing on how can I best serve them? Well, the best way I can serve them is a little bit of vulnerability. And again, we're talking healthy vulnerability, okay? We are not talking spilling everything to everyone at every moment, right?
Right.
I didn't stand up there and say, now let me give you every detail of this travel debacle. And also, we've got this family emergency going on right now with one of my kids. So let me give you every detail of that and what's going on. Like, it wasn't that.
Because then you're taking from their time and everything too, and they don't need to know all that. Like,
they don't need to know all that. And ultimately, what that does, when you cross a line, I think there's a line there where it is no longer healthy vulnerability.
You're like, this person might just be crazy.
Yeah, this person, they got a lot going on. I don't really know that I want to listen to anything they say. And so there really is a line there where it's like, hey, I'm going to give you enough to understand that I'm struggling, and we're going to move forward anyway. We're not going to let this stop us. And so I think there's something to that. Leaders, let's talk next steps. Listen, vulnerability is exhausting. It's scary. We are taught our entire lives. We have decades of muscle memory saying, do not be vulnerable, because when that happens, you're in danger. And so we have to overcome that, because one of the greatest things we can do as leaders is show healthy vulnerability. We can acknowledge that we're human. When we're scared, hey, I'm scared, and we're going to move forward. I'm struggling, and we're going to move forward. I don't know the next steps, but we're going to figure them out. That vulnerability allows people to get permission to not be perfect all the time, to be human and still do the job. Vulnerability is scary, but it's also genuinely attractive. It opens that door to deeper human connection. So embrace that as much as you possibly can. You're going to see some huge benefits from it. All right, Emily, if people want to send us emails saying that vulnerability is the scariest thing in the world and they're never going to do it, where do they send that to?
lab@forwardpartners.net. And also, I mostly think that before I actually do it every time. So
Exactly. lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us on LinkedIn, where we're putting out tons of leadership development content, where do they find that?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner on LinkedIn. Emily, thank you so much for doing this. John, Porchlight Productions Vineyard, thank you for doing this. Other Emily, thank you for bringing the vibes, keeping us organized, keeping us moving. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Share this with leaders, leaders that struggle to be vulnerable. I think we need to send this message out there more and more and more, because this is what's going to lead to great, great leadership. We'll see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.